Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's workshop with the University of Ethereum. I am joined today with some really incredible guests, and today we're going to be talking about some really incredible topics. So we're going to be covering a range of things with our expert guest, Griff, today, founder of Giveth and General Magic. And I'm so excited to have Griff on, and also Jacob Lill of Joy's Kitchen. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Griff at ETH Denver, and on multiple instances, getting to work together on Between Two Narratives film created by Amber Brandner, and also had the pleasure of interviewing him at ETH Denver too. And I see Griff in the background here getting excited, ready to come up. So yeah, I'm going to pass it off to our speakers today to give their introduction. But before I do, I'll give an introduction to myself. So my name is Rachel. I'm going to be the host today. I'm working at the University of Ethereum, doing our partnerships, sponsorships, and hosting workshops like these. So yeah, without further ado, let's get our guests up here to do their introductions.
I'm Griff Green. I founded Giveth. I've designed a few token economies. The DAO being helping to design the DAO back in 2016, as well as Giveth, TC. I even helped with Aragon and Status and several others. And so I'm just excited to talk about like token engineering and these kind of issues today, and how we can use them to make real change in the world. I'll throw it over to you, Jake.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, my name is Jacob Lill. I also go by Wigglework. Under my musical career, I'm an artist, a dreamer, a developer, and a community builder. And the last few years, I've been really focused on public impact and how we can really bring these concepts and technologies into the real world to create something beautiful. So I'm just stoked to be part of this conversation. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Absolutely. And Jacob, I've been really stoked to work with you over the past few years. Just anything you touch, anything you biddle, it just turns out amazing. And, we've worked back together on different DAO tooling. And yeah, I'm just really, really grateful that you're able to join today. And yeah, also excited to collab with you at ETH Denver at our Career Hub this year. So yeah, really exciting stuff. Jacob Lill is a multifaceted entrepreneur, DJ, biddler, and the list goes on. And I'm really excited to bring it back to Jacob after our presentation today. So I will pass it off next to Griff. Griff, you want to kick us off for the presentation?
Yeah, let's do it. The goal today is to talk about token engineering. At the end of this conversation, I really want you guys to understand the importance of token engineering, what it is, and what it can do. And I want to highlight bonding curves, basically, as an example of token engineering gone right. So let's dive into it. What is token engineering, right? It's a lot of people think that token engineering is just about designing the tokenomics for an economy, like how are tokens issued, and are you going to have like a VE curve model or something like that? But it's so much more than that. It's about bringing in ethics and safety and resilience and best practices into this industry, into the economy. It's about learning from the lessons of things that didn't work in the past and incorporating best practices so that they work in the future, and knowing that what you're building is actually going to provide some value to society. I like to look at token engineering as being like civil engineering, but for economic infrastructure, right? And if you think about it, you can go to Home Depot, you can buy some cement, and you can build a bridge, but that does not make you a civil engineer, right? Civil engineers have to learn from the mistakes of past civil engineers. This is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. It was built to the best standards of the day, but obviously it didn't work out. It ended up collapsing a few seconds after this GIF ends because of some like flutter effects, some aerodynamic effects that weren't fully understood at the time. But we learned, and now bridges do not collapse like this, right? And actually, the concept of taking these lessons and bringing them into present day is really important in civil engineering and engineering in general. I actually am in Canada, and my partner is a Canadian mechanical engineer, and she has this ring. This is the iron ring. This is something that they give to all Canadian engineers when they graduate. And you're supposed to wear it, it's not made for my finger, it's a little small, but you're supposed to wear it on your pinky finger so that when you're signing off on documents saying that this is safe, this is a safe design that will make the world a better place, you remember the lessons of the past. So they like to think that these rings are made from the metal of broken bridges and collapsed infrastructure. This is what Lauren told me when she told me about this ring, but I looked it up, and actually they're usually just made from iron. It's not a big deal. But the story, the narrative, and the concept is really important. And I would love to see us take that concept into the crypto space, where token engineers actually need to sign off on these things. We do such a we have such a strong emphasis on smart contract audits, but where's the token engineering audit? Of course, bugs in the code, that's something we need to check for. And that would have probably saved the DAO from being hacked. But when we built the DAO in 2016, there were also lots of token engineering issues that we hadn't accounted for, voting issues and things that we didn't put into our design, like the fact that we raised so much money that we had to hard fork the network when there was a bug. The DAO was not designed with token engineering in mind, and but everyone thought about the major issue, which was the fact that it was hacked, and a smart contract audit industry arose. But it's surprising that we haven't seen a token engineering audit industry arise, considering how many huge failures there have been. So everyone looks at FTX, and absolutely FTX was a mismanagement of money kind of failure. It was also a token engineering failure. People forget that the reason FTX actually failed was because they were using their own token as collateral for margin longs and shorts on their exchange, which is an obvious no. You can't just create a token and then use it as collateral in your own infrastructure. That's just a bad idea. And then, at least not with more constraints than that. Also, one of the largest fundraisers ever in the history of the world raised over $1.3 billion for a stablecoin called Fei. They failed to manage their configuration structure. So they didn't put a cap, just like the DAO. They didn't put a cap on their fundraise, and the Tribe DAO token that was attached to the fundraise ended up being way overvalued. And they could have constrained their configuration space and said, hey, we're going to make sure that we only raise $500 million. If they would have done that, the project would have succeeded. But because they didn't do that, and they were too successful, they raised $1.3 billion. The Tribe DAO token was way overvalued, and that caused a spiral where it depegged. When people dumped the token, it depegged the stable coin, and for lots of other reasons, the project actually just ended up failing. It had $1 billion behind it, so it chugged along for a while, but it could never really fully recover. And then, of course, there's Luna. Luna is really, for me, it's the most obvious thing to say, like, wow, we need token engineering in this space. Look what happened to Luna. If we could have been simulating the system and managing the system, if we could have put some constraints on how many Luna could be minted per day, or some kind of system like that, actually this ecosystem could have survived with better constraints on the token economy and a little bit more rigorous token engineering. But instead, Do Kwon is in jail. There's a huge lawsuit against Fei, and a class action lawsuit, and Sam is in jail. SBF is in jail. So token engineering is not just needed in this space. It's what we need to keep people out of jail if things go wrong. But maybe you're saying, whoa, hey, hold on. Tokenization is scary. Why do we do it at all? Maybe we could just survive without a token. But actually, I think tokenization is probably the key to unlocking some of the next major step in human evolution, like in our society, in the evolution of our society. There was the Industrial Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution really brought huge abundance to individuals, right? If you are a wealthy individual, you can fly around the world, you can get any kind of gizmo and gadget that you can imagine, right? And at a decent price. But it works only for private goods. If you start thinking about, okay, yes, wealthy individuals can get anything they want. But we as a society don't get what we want. We want good health care. We want protection against fake news. We want a variety of things. We want people to be fed. We don't want homeless in the streets. I actually think the internet revolution, that we're in a space where through tokenization, we can create economic models that can create this abundance. And I say internet revolution because it's not just tokens either. We've seen through like IPO systems, stock markets, like Google going public, for instance, Google has created a lot of abundance for society. I mean, everyone uses Google almost every day. Google Maps, all these things that we find are free for us, right? It's a new infrastructure. And they were able to achieve this because they could raise investment and scale their performance because there was a chance to do an IPO and go public and sell their shares. Now, the problem, to me, this is like the first economic model, right? But it has a lot of problems. For instance, the main problem is that they only care about their shareholders. There isn't, like, the users are totally forgotten. And this is where tokenization can make really strong economic models that can allow public goods to really shine. And the first example of this is, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum and this permissionless financial infrastructure that we have around the world. I can now send Bitcoin or Ethereum to anyone in the world without any kind of no one can stop it, right? Anyone in the world can create an address and receive money from anyone else in the world. This is incredible public infrastructure, and it wasn't built with taxes, and it wasn't built with donations. Because normally when you build things for the public, you need to do it with taxes or donations. Those are the dominant forms of providing value to the public, right? We have business models to providing value like scarce resources, but creating abundance for society usually requires donations or taxes. But actually, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these other cryptocurrencies have used economic models to create this infrastructure. Now, my question, and what I'm excited to jam with Jake today, is what about feeding the hungry? Can we create public infrastructure using economic models to take care of the less fortunate in society? And I think we can. So the basic economic model that cryptocurrencies use, all of them, is they issue tokens, and then they issue those tokens to people who are creating value and are producing the public good that the economy wants to see. The other thing is that they ensure demand for those tokens. And for a successful economy, this is the most important part. There needs to be people who want to use the tokens for utility. And it is by having both of those pieces that you get to have a market. People who receive the tokens for creating value, they can sell it into the market. And the people who want to use those tokens for utility, they can buy it from the market. And the market ends up becoming more efficient when speculators enter, because sometimes people want to sell the tokens, but there aren't very many people to buy, so the price goes down. Speculators can come in and be like, well, actually, this is still pretty valuable. Even though I don't want to buy the tokens for myself, I'll buy them now because I can sell them later, right? And vice versa. So speculators help balance out the market, but they only do this when the market is like large. And but what I want to say, the big point here is we need to focus on ensuring demand for the tokens. This is the hard part. Everything else kind of just happens on its own. You issuing tokens to people creating value, that is so easy. Now, creating demand for those tokens, what is the utility? This is where the real token engineering comes into play. Token demand is by far the most underappreciated piece of every token economy. What kind of, tokens are interesting in that they can be used to create abundance for society. Like you can create public infrastructure that is basically something just anyone can use. But at the same time, you need to find some people who want to who need a token. You still have to create some kind of scarcity that the token gives you access to, or gives some sort of utility. A lot of times it's just governance, and that's okay. Maybe there are goods or services that can only be used for buying the token, or with the token. Like MakerDAO uses MKR to pay interest on DAI loans. Even if you pay your interest in DAI, you have to send the DAI to buy Maker, right? And so like there's, it could be access to a chat room. It can be highlighted. You could just be a leaderboard, right? It's like the top token holders get recognized. There's gotta be something, and it's gotta be a major focus in your economy. Now, one of the other big challenge in an economy that's very overlooked is liquidity and price discovery. So when you create an economy, when you have a business model, it's easy to start small. You can build some widgets and sell them for more than what it costs to build them, and then you can, build more widgets. You can start a restaurant, get like some, put some seed capital up front so you can pay rent and stuff. But every time you're making meals, you're bringing in income. But when you're starting an economy and bootstrapping an economy, you're issuing tokens. How do you discover what the price of that token is, especially at a small economy? You don't think about how important that is to just understand what is the value of this token. There needs to be some kind of liquidity and market where people can buy and sell and discover that price. And there can be this ever-present balance of supply and demand with market makers. And this is really, really critical and often overlooked when you start a token economy. And it makes it very hard to start a micro economy. And this is where I want to dive into bonding curves. If you want to start a crypto economy, like I'm very well networked in the crypto space. I have, I can convince people maybe to put some liquidity into a token economy, and other influencers and people who have large networks can also like build this gap. But if you're build some kind of liquidity for their economy, and that's not really right. That's kind of like it's not really fair. It's not an equal playing field right now. But bonding curves actually give you an opportunity to level the playing field. So a bonding curve, if you've never heard of it, it's actually not that complicated. It's just a simple smart contract that when you send money to that smart contract, it issues tokens. And when you and that smart contract will hold the money, right? Smart contracts are just computer programs that can hold money. And when you send money to that contract, it will create tokens. And when you send tokens to that contract, it will release the money that it's holding. And the rules that determine how much each token costs and these things, this is the price curve. So the cool thing about bonding curves is that, I really believe bonding curves will win a Nobel Prize in economics, because they're the first example that I know of an open single-sided market where before bonding curves, if you ever wanted to buy something, someone had to sell it to you. You want to buy a chair, someone needs to sell you that chair. If you want to sell Amazon stock, someone needs to buy that Amazon stock from you, right? This is why restaurants can't go public on the stock exchange, right? A small restaurant that just is serving spaghetti on the corner, and maybe has 5 tables. They're not a big chain. They can't sell their stock openly, because let's say that they want to, they can sell ownership, but that ownership is not transferable. They can sell like 10% of the ownership, and therefore 10% of the profits every month can go to these shareholders, right? But if those shareholders were able to just be like, hey, who wants to buy my stock? And no one wanted to buy it and they wanted to sell it, what's the value of that stock? The value is 0. Because no one wants to buy it and they want to sell it. They'll sell it for a penny, right? COVID just happened. They want to sell their stock. This is why smaller companies can't get listed on the stock market. And it's also why small market cap tokens go up and down and are so much more volatile than the large tokens. It's because of liquidity. It's because of price discovery. And what's interesting is if you have a bonding curve, if the stock for that restaurant was issued on a bonding curve, it would always have a price because there would be collateral backing each stock. So this curve is showing the price versus the supply, right? And so as the token supply goes up, moves from, if someone comes and buys 10 tokens, right? Then the price also goes up. And then there's collateral, the price of the token, the money that they sent went in to collateralize those tokens. So the first token they bought was cheaper than the last token they bought. But they paid, of course, the average price of those tokens. Now, if someone comes and has 10 tokens and they sell, right, they're going to move the price down the curve. The token supply is going to go down. Those tokens will just be destroyed and collateral will be released. So the most prolific user of bonding curves in the space by far is Friendtech. Friendtech created a bonding curve that would created a protocol where anyone who wanted to create their own chat room could start a chat room in Friendtech. And for people to access that chat room, they would have to buy a token. Now imagine trying to sell a token for a chat room in the open market, right? What is the price going to be? You know, it's just too dynamic. The people buying tokens and selling tokens, trying to put it on Uniswap, it doesn't work. The system wouldn't work. But with a bonding curve, you can say, hey, you know, the first 12 keys are going to be around, you know, are less than $20. Right? You can see it on the corner. They're actually determining the price of each token. And as more and more tokens are bought and more people join the chat room, the next tokens get more and more expensive. And it's kind of cool because you don't really want a chat room to be in somebody's chat room and have 400 people in it. You want it to be more intimate, right? You want it to maybe 80 people, right? Maybe 100, but not 400. That's too many people. And it's overwhelming for the person who, you know, is supposed to be chatting with you. And so this was actually really cool, but it had a major flaw. And Friendtech had a huge spike. Lots of people were using it, but the major flaw was that bots came in, and when you create a chat room, the first 5 people who buy your token don't care about you at all. They're not even people. They're bots. And then their goal is to dump those 5 tokens on people who come in later. It's not a great way to start a chat room, right? It's bad token engineering, honestly. The token engineering commons actually use almost the exact same model for a bonding curve. But instead of having that model where and they did it 2 years before Friendtech, it's called the augmented bonding curve. And instead of having it so that it's just a free-for-all when it starts, when they launched their bonding curve, and I think this is important this is just good token engineering at the launch of any economy, you don't want it to be people, you don't want to invite people in at the early days who don't care about your economy, who don't care about the value you're actually trying to create. So the TEC was very, very good about closing their hatch to people who actually want to see the field of token engineering advance. And they said, hey, everybody, pool your money, and we're going to launch the bonding curve together. So when they all put their money in, then they all got the average price of that bonding curve. So, you know, if the first token is worth less than a penny, and in the case of the token engineering commons, the last token is worth $1, then the average price of the token it ended up being somewhere around 45 cents because it's not a straight line, right? But now the average price is 45 cents, so everyone gets a great deal on the tokens. So you have to be careful now. You have to lock those tokens before at the launch of the economy. And now you have this trusted base, the trusted seed, who cares about this economy and has future interest in its success. And so after the hatch, Then the augmented bonding curve is free. Now you have that friend tech speculation where anyone can buy the tokens. They know no one can sell it because the tokens were locked by the hatchers. And now there's the classic mint and burn thing of a bonding curve. But with the augmented bonding curve, it's augmented in two ways. Number one is the hatch, which is the piece that friend tech forgot about. This hatch where just think of friend tech if they seeded each chat room with like 10 or 20 people who really want to be in that chat room and make it valuable for everyone that joins. It would be a much better token design. But that's what the TEC did. They seeded the bonding curve with people who really care about advancing token engineering. And then just like friend tech, there are fees on every buy and sell. I didn't mention that for friend tech, but it's a similar thing. So when someone comes in and mints TEC tokens, at the beginning, when they launched, people had to send in a DAI, XDAI specifically. So they would send in XDAI, and then TEC would be minted for the token holders from the bonding curve. But every time they did that, there would be a fee that then would go to funding public goods. And you can almost see it as like programmable taxes into the economy that people are consenting to when they participate. Right? And it's the same when they burn. When people came to sell TEC tokens, they have to pay a tribute, and it goes to continue to advance token engineering. And then they get XDAI back. And it was actually incredibly valuable for the token engineering commons to be pegged against DAI during the bear market. Because of this built-in liquidity, bonding curves are built-in liquidity with like deterministic price discovery, right? So that doesn't mean the price, what the price will do, but given how many tokens exist, what the price will be. So how the price will react at any time. If someone sells $200,000 of TEC into the bonding curve, what the price will be afterwards. This is not true in normal markets. Anyway, I digress. By having liquidity built in, it meant that when the bear market came, people couldn't just pull their money out. The money was actually built into the token itself. The liquidity is built into the token itself. So while most public goods focused communities had a lot of issues in the bear market, the price of TEC only dropped by about 50% from $1 to about 50 cents, 40 cents. And whereas and that's given the fact that Ether dropped by around the same amount, it's pretty impressive for a public goods focused economy that all they do is give out grants to people advancing token engineering. So now that it seems like the bear market might be over, TEC actually migrated from Gnosis Chain to Optimism, and where they're very aligned. When they launched, there wasn't Optimism. But now Optimism is so aligned with public goods that TEC made the choice to actually migrate their whole economy over to Optimism and change the reserve collateral to Rocket Pool ETH. So now, if Ether goes up, the price of the TEC goes up, which is pretty cool because now people expect Ether to go up. But the same thing, same system still holds. When people mint or burn TEC, it funds advancing token engineering. So that's like that's one example of something that exists today that is actually funding public goods with really advanced token engineering, specifically bonding curves. If you want to try launching your own bonding curve, there's an application so you can launch bonding curves backed by OP tokens, Rocket Pool ETH, Ether, whatever you want on Optimism. Well, not whatever you want, just a few tokens on Optimism. It's still beta software, launch.abcswap.xyz. If I wouldn't launch a complete economy on it, okay? But for testing and for understanding, it is super cool. You can go and launch a bonding curve on Optimism today. And if you want to get your iron ring in token engineering, you really want to go to the Token Engineering Academy. They have six courses that will get you start your token engineering journey. the TE Fundamentals course. It's really, really great. And if you're in the University of Ethereum, I know that you will absolutely love this course. So please consider checking it out. Okay, that's my rant. It was more than long enough. So I'm excited to just talk to Jake about all these things. Maybe he has some questions. Thank you.
Yeah, wow. That is a whole lot to digest. And thank you so much for making this information available to us and to everybody out there. This is very, very powerful stuff.
Jacob is really trying to tackle some really important issues with Joy's Kitchen. And I think that a lot of this can be applied to helping Joy's Kitchen really make an impact. So yeah, Jacob, you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess to get things started, let me talk a little bit about Joy's Kitchen. So I've been aware of this amazing organization for about 4 or 5 years now. I've produced fundraisers and had them be nonprofit partners of many events that I've thrown throughout the years. And I became really close friends with the founder and executive director, Kathy Stanley, who is by far one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my entire life. So what does Joy's Kitchen do? Well, we tackle this backwards food system that has been put in place, and we freely distribute 1.6 million pounds of food and feed over 20,000 people each month. Actually, this last month, I think it was a little bit closer to 30,000 people. And we do that 100% community driven. We haven't gotten any government grants or funding, although we did win the Mayor's Award last year. And we have a volunteer force of about 500 people that show up every single week and collect food that is getting ready to expire or they can't capitalize as much as they'd like to, bring it to our location in Lakewood, Colorado. And then we open up, I think we're open 6 days a week and we're open to the public 4 days a week. And we rescue and distribute a little over 6,000 pounds of food every single day, which is the weight of 3 elephants, or a little bit over $30,000 retail price at the grocery store. We do no KYC. We don't check IDs. We don't ask questions. If you're hungry, you come in and you take as much food as you possibly can. And you give it to whoever you would like to. And we're very inclusive. And we take the stigma away from needing a little bit of help. And through that, we've built a very strong community. I'd say we're 30,000 plus strong at this point. We do a lot of stuff in the music and art space. We definitely do a lot of fundraisers with some amazing musicians that are really helping to help with food scarcity. And we recently started entering the Web3 space, which is a big passion of mine, as you both know. So our first taste of Web3 is we ran our first campaign on Giveth. And it was fantastic. Optimism helped out with that. And it was so cool to see the impact of, I think we had maybe 90 some donors. And it was just so cool to see that crypto start coming into our treasury. And, after having such a good experience with Giveth, we decided to do Gitcoin as well. And we did a Gitcoin grant recently. And, we got even more support with that one. And now we're at a point where we have a very small treasury and we love Web3. We love the community. We love these decentralized ideas and practices. And we want to figure out a way to apply it to what we're already doing because it's pretty darn special. In fact, I personally have never seen another charity that's able to create so much impact with each dollar. With each dollar donated, we're able to rescue 10.6 pounds of food, which is $52.89 retail price at the grocery store. That's 8.8 meals, and that actually offsets 2.88 kilograms of CO2 equivalent carbon offsets, which is equal to driving 1.6 miles in your average car. So yeah, that's what we do.
Did you say that $1 gets 8 meals?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
unbelievable.
That's awesome.
That's epic.
Wow. And you said, Jacob, earlier, $25 feeds a family for 1 week, correct?
Close. I did say that on our chat. It's actually, I think, 0.4 weeks. So 8.8
Okay.
meals, but very, very, very
Still,
close.
it really doesn't take a lot to make an impact. And I just want to give a call to action for any of our listeners or students that are local to Colorado, because Joy's Kitchen is a Colorado nonprofit. We have a really thriving Eat Denver community out there and a lot of Web3 folks in Denver and Colorado, like Jacob here. So yeah, we definitely encourage you to get involved. You can volunteer, you can donate. And also, I'm curious, Jacob, if the funding rounds are still live on Giveth or on Gitcoin.
Well, yeah, we're going to keep our profile on both Giveth and Gitcoin. We don't have any active grants that are going on right at this very second, but I actually made a page on our website. If you were to go to joyskitchen.org/web3, we're actually taking our next version of volunteers, and that's anybody that's in the Web3 space or the crypto space or technology or just coming from this area that wants to support us in any way. So I'm on the board of Joy's Kitchen, and I build all of our technology. So we have volunteer programs. We have all kinds of donation mechanisms. So if you're an up-and-coming developer that wants to see how we're doing and maybe share your gifts, please fill that out. And there's also a link to our Giveth profile on there too. So if you have an interest in throwing us a little bit of optimism, we'd be super stoked on that as well too. And if you're a boring Web 2 person, you can also go to joyskitchen.org/donate. And it's really cool. We actually have a impact calculator right on there, and you can see the exact impact every dollar that you donate creates.
Well, this is a really beautiful initiative, Jacob, and I definitely applaud your efforts. Just really trying to make a real world tangible impact here. That's what we really want to focus on at the University of Ethereum. So yeah, I want to pass it over to Griff. Griff, I know you have a background with supporting different nonprofits. I know that's a really big reason why you created Giveth, right? Is to give back to different noble causes. So knowing what you know about Joy's Kitchen and Jacob Lill's mission here, what do you suggest as far as implementing bonding curves or using blockchain to help with Joy's Kitchen's mission?
Yeah, I think the key here is that you really need to get software that makes things easy. You know, one of the biggest blockers we have to solving real problems with token economies is that real people don't want to write down 12 words and worry about how to use MetaMask, how to add tokens into their wallet. What is this stuff? How do they even get the Bitcoins, you know? So like that's really the biggest barrier to entry right now, and the biggest blocker. It's not the technology, it's not the actual like token engineering, because I think we could walk through that and it would be pretty fun. But the real issue is like, how easy is the software to build and or to use? And one of the amazing things about Jacob is of course that he's built some amazing software that normal people could use, because the tech is starting to be there, right? Maybe most people in this watching this video haven't used it, but you can now create your own wallet with a Google account, right? And start holding Ethereum wallets. Maybe Jake, you could talk about some of the software you've built and things that make it easy.
Yeah, definitely. So a few years ago, one of my big passions is arts, music, and helping artists come into Web3 and figuring out interesting, meaningful, and valuable ways to do that. So a few years back, I helped one of my favorite musicians, the Polish Ambassador, create his NFT project and the Polish Ambassador. And one of the challenges we had is this gigantic existing fan base. He's a very large musician that headlines most of the major festivals. And how can we bring these people that might not be Web3 native or even a little bit Web3 opposed, how can we create a valuable experience at these IRL events and get them involved? So my solution to that was a piece of technology called Quick Wallet. And what that is the ability to create a wallet in under 10 seconds with an email. That's it.
I remember that, and I've used it. I actually used that for some events I did back when I was in the Bay Area doing local meetups. I actually used that, and it was really great. It was very efficient, very fast. So yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. So what we did is we created a Polish ambassador branded wallet. We set up the Polish Ambassador Fan Club, which was our Web3 booth, but we didn't want to say that. And then we offered digital collectibles because, truth be told, not everybody loves NFTs and not everybody loves hearing about NFTs, especially when they're at a concert. So we gave away digital collectibles, and people would scan a QR code, they'd put their email in, and then they would get an airdrop of a digital collectible, and they would also have the ability to buy his NFTs, which what we did is you could pay with Ethereum or anything else, but you could also pay with a credit card, which kind of eliminated that friction point a little bit for the everyday people. And we were very successful with that. I think we did that at a lot of major festivals. I think we onboarded 10 to 15,000 people in the course of a few months. And, I'm going to knock on wood, but I've still never heard any complaints or bugs or any issues at all. And, we were people that have never heard what a Bitcoin is, all the way to the 60-year-old jamming grandmas. They all got onboarded and they all got their digital collectible. So, I think taking like a technology like that and customizing it specifically for Joys is going to be very powerful. Another one of my passions is education. So one of the things, and I need to start it in the next month, I think we're going to do monthly or bi-weekly meetups at Joy's Kitchen, specifically for our existing community, our in need community. And, what I've done with all my meetups is anybody who sets up their first wallet, I always send them a little bit of crypto. And sometimes it's a little bit more, but give it a couple of years, it usually becomes a lot. So I think getting the education out there, getting the tools to our community is really good. But yeah, I just, ever since we all started talking, I keep thinking about a Joys token and an economy of joy.
Yeah, I think it's doable as long as you start there. This is the thing. You want to go and make real impact, you have to start with the education and the accessibility, because that's the major blocker. That's where most of things fail right now. Alejandro's asking where to find the wallet.
Quickwallet.org.
Quickwallet.org. So easy.
Okay, I'm going to drop that in our YouTube comments here.
Yeah, and feel free to continue to ask questions, guys. We will absolutely answer them.
And truth be told, the website says a few things about it. If you're interested in using it for your project, everything I do is open source. So just shoot an email, shoot me a message, and let's figure out how to get you a quick wallet.
Because
Alejandro says he feels very aligned with this all.
Yeah. Because that's the first stop. This is what is blocking the ability for this technology to make real change in this way of allowing people to kind of start up their own micro economies around, ending food scarcity in the Denver area, for instance. But there is real potential there. Like from a high level, imagine if Joy's Kitchen has found innovative ways to distribute food that's very efficient to the people in need, and they can scale it, right? They can scale that infrastructure so that the people who invest in Joy's Kitchen, not just donate, but invest in Joy's Kitchen for the success that it has in Denver, they could actually use that to scale to the other cities around this in the nation, and the people who invested in them in Denver would actually then, if they created token utility and token demand, would actually benefit financially for scaling the network as more people demand the token. This is crazy. It used to be that you would, if you wanted to do good work for society, you start a nonprofit, you try to work for the government. These are your options. There was no reason for an entrepreneur to get in and try to build an economy around feeding the needy, right? But if we can unlock, if we unlock the accessibility and education side, then this becomes a real possibility. And there's so many ways to do it.
Well, and the really exciting thing and what just gets me going about Joys is we've been doing this in Denver for 10 years, and we have, everybody knows who we are. It's wonderful. But we also have contracts to be able to do this nationwide. We can literally open up in any state, any city, and have an abundance of food immediately. Not only that, but although this isn't a typical technology project, this is an open source project. And over the last 6 months or so, we've been working around the clock to create manuals, to create SOPs, to create best practices, and how this can actually be replicated and opened up by groups of volunteers in other areas. Along those lines, it was, a blessing and a curse, but Kathy Stanley, the founder and executive director, she had a family emergency earlier this year. She's the amazing woman who's there 80 hours a week making everything happen, and she had to take care of her family in another state. So I've been helping out however I can and stepping in where need be. But truth be told, our feeding almost 30,000 person a month operation ran independently of her and mostly independently of me for the last month, no problem. So that was kind of like the evidence that I needed to understand that this is ready to grow and this is ready to scale. And I think creating a token and spreading this message could be a very powerful way to gather our people and gather the people that want to create more joy in this world.
So then the first questions the first questions are, where is the token utility? So like, obviously there's like nonprofits. So one thing that people forget is people do donate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do people donate? That is a financial income, and people donate for a variety of reasons. Maybe there's like a leaderboard. Maybe they just want to see this thing grow. Like that is one way to have token utility. Hey, instead of donating, all donations that come in go to buy the token, right? And then that's like just a token utility. But what other scarce resources can you actually give token holders?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we're kind of playing around with right now. So I'm up to my eyes in donation receipts and getting those out to all the people in the next week. So I've been thinking about this a lot. But what we're going to try and do this year is issue an NFT to go along with everybody's tax deductible donation receipt. And in addition to that, we're going to get our carbon offset certified. So we'll actually have carbon credits available, not a substantial amount, but if there was 100 Joy's Kitchens or 1,000 Joy's Kitchens, that could start becoming a little bit substantial. So those are a few things. Another thing that I think could be very powerful, and again, I'm open source, we're open source. We want to give anything we can to everybody we can as easily as possible. But I am building a whole suite of technology specifically to operate a Joy's Kitchen and operate one of these food programs. And again, my heart says, let's just give it to anybody who wants it. But that could potentially be a utility, I would think, is maybe if you wanted to open a Joy's Kitchen in your city, you have to hold 1,000 Joy's tokens in a treasury, and maybe that gives you access to the platform, including the donation mechanisms.
And maybe it can be a little more simple, easier than that. Like the scarcity could be like, hey, you, as a core organization, you can only open in one city every 6 months, one new city every 6 months, right? And so token holders get to vote on which city it is. And hey, if you're in a different city, buy this token. And then, stake it behind the city that you want, which is your city, right? That could be, for instance, that's good. And I think that making the voting not feel like voting, right? Like there's a lot of these governance tokens that's like, oh, look, if you have the token, you can read through our forums and decide like who gets what when and people don't actually want that. That's like a lot of work. But if you make it something that they do want, right? And something super simple, like what city should Joy's start in next? Or, what kind of food should we focus on getting? What are people's favorite foods? And you have this kind of engagement opportunity it's like, yeah, I think the food that people should be getting in Joy's Kitchen is really healthy food, right? And then you have other people that are like, yeah, I've been going forever, I want some pizza, like, and so now you can have like a discussion about where the priorities are, and it can be as simple as, hey, the people with more. I think the other side of things is making sure that there's a reputation token or, a good way to have fair stakeholder decision making. Donors don't have all the power. That's one of the horrible things with our current stock market systems and shareholders, and that where it all becomes about corporate profits as opposed to, well, what about the users? What about the people who are being showed advertisements? Like, shouldn't they have a voice? And with token economies, that's so much easier to do than it is with corporate shareholders and these kinds of C Corp enterprises.
Yeah, no, I really like what you're saying along those lines. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but DAO tooling, governance tools, reputation tools, that's something I've been building for 5 years at this point. And it's a huge passion. And, we're a nonprofit organization right now, but we're open to becoming a DAO. I created a platform over the last couple of years called DAO Portal, which is over 100 hyper-connected tools at this point for everything. DAO creation, management, communication, reputation, all the things. That's pretty neat. That's DAOportal.io if anybody wants to check that out. But I would love to implement something like that in Joy's. And there's a tool in there called an asynchronous meeting, and it's really cool. It's meant to be like a weekly newsletter, and you can update, these are the days we're going to be open, this is that. But you can actually have votes right in your newsletter that's sent out via push notification, email, WhatsApp. So yeah, and we have such a big community of volunteers that's already logging into the volunteer system and signing up for shifts and checking this and checking that, to where I don't think it would be a huge transition to get everybody to have a new feature right built into that.
Yeah, there's lots of other little things that you can add in: lotteries, raffles, right? Get other groups to donate to Joy token holders, right? Like Denver Nuggets says 2 courtside seats, and the more tokens you have, the more likelihood you get these tickets, right? And giving people an excuse. You can use the same tools that nonprofits use today to raise for more of an investment that gives upside to the donors. And I think it's just a totally different mindset, but it creates a different incentives. But it's really interesting.
I just wanted to say, Jacob, I'm fully in support if you want to do anything DAO focused for Joy's Kitchen. I have a lot of experience there. Would love to get involved and support however I can. Number one. Number two, I think I've mentioned to both of you that I'm making the move to Berkeley in about 2 weeks. We aim to actually do our regional event there this year as well. So I'm wondering if there's any way we can loop in this conversation and maybe do something IRL up in the Bay Area. So maybe we can pick up on that conversation after. I know we're getting to the end of the session here. We have a couple student questions that have come through, so I want to make sure we get to those before we wrap up the session today. So going back to question 1 I shared here, how do we bridge access to funding to emerging communities? Seeing that these communities are faced with many challenges and have innovative ideas on how many of those challenges can be solved. Danny also goes on to say, you have people who have great ideas but lack the required skills, tools, and education to go about it. It's a lot of words there.
Yeah, that's a huge question. I mean, I feel like having ideas, it's sometimes what you really need are the people with the skills and the education that can execute on those ideas. And I really truly believe if we can create systems where the people who succeed at creating abundance for society are rewarded, then those people who are well educated, can innovate, the entrepreneurs that see opportunities to make things better and make value and make money will come into the same space, right? Right now, if you are really smart and you can put ideas together and put together interesting economic models, you start a tech startup. You don't start a nonprofit. And that's That's the I know, right? Okay, sometimes people do start these nonprofits, and you know what happens? Burnout, altruistic burnout on the reg. And they just it can't last, it can't scale. They feel like everything's on their shoulders. And why, when they could have a startup, and so I feel like it's a systemic issue. And if we build systems that will reward people who have great success, then we'll get people who can have great success putting in the effort.
It's a really great answer there, Griff. And I got one more here. So I did mention to our students about your involvement with Greenpilled and kind of chatting a bit about regenerative crypto economics in the Greenpilled book. So this question asks from one of our student members, Victor, how can regenerative crypto economics be leveraged by nonprofits to address food scarcity? And what are some ways individuals can get involved in these initiatives? This might be a good question for Jacob here.
Yeah, so I'll tell you exactly how we leveraged it. We found crypto fundraising platforms like Giveth and Gitcoin. We put our story up there and we let crypto do its thing, and we got a ton of support on both of those campaigns. I think there's the tools out there, and to answer kind of both of the questions, I think it's passion. I think it's taking that idea that you have and sharing it with the world. And, sooner or later, you're going to find a second person who's like, that's pretty cool. And then creating ways for them to get on board, for them to join. And, before you know it, you have a whole group. And then before you know it, you have 30,000 people that are ready to do whatever they have to accomplish their collective goal.
And there's some ready-made tools out there. When you donate to Joy's Kitchen on Giveth, you can get up to half your money back in Give tokens, right? It's like donation mining. So if people stake more Give tokens behind Joy's Kitchen, then donors would get more Give tokens than what is there already. So, I mean, that's like one thing. Quadratic funding. It's such an easy sell, right? Donate $1. Donate $1 to our campaign, and that increases our matching funds. You can get $20 for Joy's Kitchen. Like, how could someone not want to donate $1? Right? It's these are like donation games that I find really interesting and really powerful. But we spent most of the time talking about donation games, but there's so many cool things. Retroactive public goods funding. There's dominance assurance contracts. Domino.fund, I think it is, where it's like you can create a game where the largest, the platform can find one large donor who says, hey, we need $20,000. I'm going to put $4,000 up. And if we don't meet the goal, everyone who put money in gets to split the $4,000 based on how much they put in.
Whoa.
Right? If we meet the goal, then, hey, we keep the $4,000, right? Like, there's so many interesting games we can play. And this is just the beginning.
Wow.
Wow. Well, I'm really excited to just, continue this conversation. We're going to be chatting for the next week or so in our general chat and Discord. So for all of our student members listening, definitely come into our Discord, ask Griff and ask Jacob any questions you might have. I do have one more question before we wrap up the session for today. So Amin is asking in Discord, and thank you to Moko for sharing. What are some best practices that have been successful in simplifying the onboarding process with the goal of enhancing participation and expanding such tokens?
Well, I would say making things easy, like using signatures for voting as opposed to like on-chain transactions. That was a huge leap with Snapshot. And I think account abstraction, onboarding with an email like Jacob did with Quick Wallet. I think that is by far, I really think taking crypto out of the understanding and experience as much as possible is the way. Like, it shouldn't matter what chain it's on. It shouldn't matter what currencies are in the background. People should have a dashboard that tells them what they need without all the how and magic behind. The how and magic behind makes it possible for us to start trust economies people can trust, right? Like clear rules for engagement. But I really love, you mentioned this video earlier
oh yeah, I gotta find that one and link it.
I can't, that Rachel and I were just in, that came out a week ago, but at the end of it, it's like, I say this, and I still stand by it. We live in an incredible time. You used to have an army to start an economy. Now you just need to know a couple of nerds. And those nerds you can create economies, but the nerds that are creating economies right now want everyone to be nerds. We need to make those economies hidden in the background. We know that they're safe. We know that they're secure. It's super cool. But people should be able to just click regular buttons on Web 2 and not know that they're participating in some crazy Web3 ecosystem.
Yeah, and the example I always give, I ask people, do you know technically how a credit card works? And nobody does. I don't even know that. I've been saying that for years. But guess what? It works every single time. So it's when you can have that trust, you don't need to explain the technical side of it. You just give them a working product, and people are pretty happy with that most of the time.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and drop right here the YouTube link to this video. So shout out to Amber if Amber ever gets a chance to listen to this. Griff starts out in this conversation. We talk with Kevin Owaki, myself, Gloria from Gitcoin. So yeah, some really amazing folks on this video. I'm dropping this here and sharing it.
I've watched that video about 10 times in the last week. And I have
so
every single time when you say what you just said, Griff.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I felt very honored that of all those interviews, she really highlighted a lot of my one-liners. So it's a pretty high quality film. And I'm very, very honored to be so featured in it. It's very cool.
Yeah, and for those that don't have the ability to click or look up this link right now, I believe the YouTube video is called Between Narratives, Blockchain and Public Goods. So if you look that up, you'll probably see Griff on there as soon as you start playing it. Yeah, so as we wrap up here today, I just want to take a moment to share any parting words of wisdom. I'd really like to share just parting words of wisdom and also how the students and listeners can get connected with you.
Sure. I can start. So you can follow Giveth at Giveth on Twitter. You can follow me at the Griff T on Twitter. THE. Well, it's on my handle somewhere. And then, man, I really just hope that you guys can consider diving into token engineering. I feel like this is the biggest thing missing in our space. If we want to build public infrastructure for public benefit, we have to take it more seriously than we are today. And we have to really think about the resilience, the ethics, how do we make it secure, not just from a code standpoint, but like safe and scalable from an economic standpoint. And think of it like we're building bridges, because we really are. We're building financial infrastructure that anyone can use, and people are getting hurt all the time. So I think once we get a little bit more serious about this space and about what we're doing, then we will actually start solving real problems. I'll throw it to you, Jacob.
Yeah, wow. How do I follow that up? Oh boy. Well, you can follow me. I'm Jacob Lill on everything. You can follow Joy's Kitchen at joyskitchen.org. We actually have an article about Giveth up there. We have two articles we have one about quadratic funding and then one about Gitcoin 19, I believe it was. And the intention is I really want to document our entire process into wherever we go and really identify and highlight the tools, the technology, the people that are coming in to make this all possible. So yeah, take a look at our blog. We're going to be talking a lot about food scarcity and a lot about Web3. You can find me at ETH Denver. If you're interested in any kind of musical stuff, I go by Wigglework. You can find me on Audius. Just search for Wigglework. And yeah, really anywhere something interesting is happening, you might just see my head pop up.
Yeah, and random side fact, Wiggles and I organize a Burning Man group. We're not 100% sure we're going this year, probably. We also have this crazy art car with a steam room up top. And we do nonstop talks on crypto, all day, every day. So they're really fun. So if you want to go to Burning Man with a crypto camp, you could also DM us for that.
Yeah, and I have to add just one quick thing to that. So my whole life for the last however long has been all about bringing Web3 into the real world and onboarding people in interesting ways. And Griff, a lot of that is from the inspiration that I got from you and Camp Decentral. So like from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Huh?
Yeah, and thanks, man. That's really sweet. I saw Justin from East Denver saying, "Hey, Sonadao, yeah, Sonadao,
Sonadao, let's go."
Sonadao on Playa, baby. It's going to be epic.
Griff, well, first of all, I just want to say this really has encompassed everything we've been looking to cover at the University of Ethereum, right? Like really high quality education for our student members, our listeners, and people tuning in, and actually showing how blockchain can be used to solve real problems. So you really crushed it, Griff. I'm really stoked on the presentation. The quality of everything was just like excellent. And also, if you don't end up going to Burning Man, we are having EdCon in Tokyo, which I mentioned to you. So I'm going to drop that link right here. We are accepting sponsors. We're accepting partners that want to get involved in EdCon and speaking applications. So the clock is ticking there. If you want to get involved, go to edcon.io. Griff, Jacob, I'm just immensely grateful for you both. You're both like massive inspirations in the space. So thank you for taking the time and helping out and joining the University of Ethereum today.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.